Quit Pinterest. So this is part 3 in my 5-video series on should you quit Pinterest? Is it time? So I'm going to set up going live here on Instagram at the same time really quick, and then we'll be ready to go. Check in connection. Oh, let me make sure my Wi-Fi is still on. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. So, whoops. Welcome, you guys. My name is Jennifer Priest, and today we're talking about part 3 in my 5-part series, Should I Quit Pinterest? Is it time to quit Pinterest? And this is part 3. What happens if you decide to quit? And the reason that I'm doing this series, I go over this a lot in the first video. We're going to have 5 altogether, so there's 2 more coming after this. The reason I'm doing this is because there's so much negativity around Pinterest, and I was explaining this inside of our paid group this morning. When there's this tidal wave of negativity and you're trying to be positive about Pinterest, it's really hard to stay positive if like all this is coming at you. It's really hard not to get swept up in it. So we want to make sure that you're not getting swept up in it, especially if you do want to have the benefits from Pinterest. And then what do you got to do to get that? And so I decided to come at this from a little bit of a different angle of what if you actually did decide to quit Pinterest, what would the effect of that be, right? What would happen? So I want to tell you a little bit of a story, and because I think this is going to illustrate this point really clearly. And then we're going to jump into the teaching. And the story is a little bit about the teaching. And I want this to be as quick as possible because I don't want you to have to watch like hours of videos. So I'm going to try to keep this short and to the point. About a week ago, I did an order on Grubhub for chicken wings. I was looking for a new chicken wing place to try. I found this one on Grubhub, and I think it was called Voodoo Wings, VUDU, right? And they looked good. I ordered them, and I was like, sweet, I'm waiting for my wings, right? And I put my phone down because I don't like to keep my phone with me. And half an hour later, I go and I check, and my wing order was canceled. And I'm like, what? That's so weird. So I ended up having to go get food. Because I was like, well, I'm not going to use Grubhub again because they canceled my order. They said they couldn't fulfill the order. So we're up in that area of town, and I'm like, oh yeah, that wing place. I was with my son a couple days later. I was like, that wing place, it's over in this area of town. Like, let's go there and get the wings. And so I'm searching for the name online, and I can't find it. And I was like, it said it was new on Grubhub. And so I was like, all right, well, let me go see if I can find it on Google. Couldn't find it. So I went back to the Grubhub app. I found the address, and I was like, all right, we got the address from Grubhub. Maybe this place is so new that it's not on Google Maps. So we put the address in, we go, and it's a Chinese food place. And I was like, what? Where's the wing place? And on the sign, they had a list of all these other places that were like co-located inside the Chinese food restaurant, but the wing place wasn't on the list. And I was like, I really wanted wings. I went out of my way to find them. I went over to the place. I couldn't find it. I wanted to give them my money. Okay. I tried to give them my money through Grubhub, and I couldn't find it. And so how does this relate to Pinterest? Well, you can make things really easy for people to find, right? Putting your stuff on Yelp, putting your stuff on Google, right? If you're a local business, that kind of thing. You can make your stuff really easy to find if you're an online business by putting it on Pinterest, or you can just leave it to chance. And people who want to give you money for the things that you're offering aren't going to be able to. I never had this company's wings before. I was looking for a new wing place. I didn't know they existed. Once I was aware they existed, I wanted to go deeper and couldn't give them my money. Could not give them my money. So there's a few things that you can do on Pinterest. The first thing that I want to tell you about is Pinterest has a new thing called the content claiming portal. So if you decide I want to quit Pinterest, there's a few different ways that you can do that. And I'm going to talk about how to do it in the 5th video and a little bit in my video tomorrow, which will be video 4 in this series. But what I want to talk about today is what not to do if you're leaving Pinterest. Pinterest came out with this thing called the content claiming portal, which is super awesome because they had a lot of problems with stolen content. So with the content claiming portal, you can tell Pinterest, allow my pins on there, but only from me. You can put rules in place for how your content from your website can show up on Pinterest. You have to claim your website. So you have to install code and claim the site. But you you have control over how it shows up. So that way, like if somebody took your image and uploaded it as their own and linked it to whatever else that's not yours, you can then tell Pinterest, hey, my images, I want them only to be linking to my site, right? So it's a way to protect you. You can also use a content claiming portal to remove all of your content from Pinterest, to block Pinterest from ever allowing anyone else to put your content on Pinterest. So someone comes to your site, they can't pin, right? There's code you can put on your site to disallow that, but you can do this directly with Pinterest where they won't let people pin. Now, I wouldn't advise doing that. This would be really similar to like taking down your website and making it hard for people to find your business. Doesn't make sense. If you already have content on Pinterest, if you already have content on Pinterest, it's going to be working for you. So I'm going to talk about that. And if people want to come to your site and save pins because they like your ideas and they like what you have to offer and they want to come back to it later, that's usually why people save stuff. Why would you not allow them to do that? Right? So some people, when they're talking about leaving Pinterest, they're doing it from a place of anger, resentment, frustration. They're like, Pinterest owes us bloggers because they built this platform on our content. And while we may or may not agree to like if that's true or what level that's true, coming from that place is not necessarily constructive, right? Because if you were to take all of your content off Pinterest, you will absolutely get 0 results from Pinterest. So if we could get some results with no effort, right? You're like, I'm quitting Pinterest, I can get some results. That would be better than 0. I think most of us would agree. Having some traffic is better than none. So I wouldn't take down your content because I've seen some people advising take down the content. I've seen some people who are like angry and they're like, I'm going to take my content. Pinterest can't build their business off of it. You can do that through the content claiming portal. I don't think it's a good idea, but it is there. So here's why do I not think that's a good idea. Your pins, whether you are working Pinterest actively today or not, right? And your activity level on Pinterest may have some effect on the benefits available, but your content lives on Pinterest. Your pins are still working for you, whether you are there or not. This is why I like to say that on Pinterest, we're planting oak trees, right? Your content is evergreen. You plant that little seed, and imagine if we're planting trees, you plant the seed, you water it, right? You optimize it, you water it, you put fertilizer on it, you pick a place where it can grow, right? You're not just going to throw seeds on some rocks and be like, grow seed, right? It probably isn't going to grow. You make sure that it has all the conditions, it's optimized to grow. Then you leave it alone, right? That's what we got to do on Pinterest. We put the pin out there, we optimize it to perform, and then we leave it alone. What's beautiful is that you can look back later and be like, oh, that one's bringing traffic. This one's bringing traffic. They're all going to bring you benefit later on. They're going to bring you benefit right now today. Those days are over. Like we're not going to see where it used to be. You could put a pin up and you get all kind of traffic right away. That's just not going to happen anymore. So we kind of got to like wash our brains of that idea. I know it's still so fresh because it was so recently, but it's almost kind of like the world after COVID. We're going to probably see people with masks, right? Like that used to be a very weird thing to see in the United States, more regular in some other countries. We're probably going to see people with masks. It's just, we're not going to go back to the way that it was. Similarly with Pinterest, maybe not totally similarly, but just giving you that contrast of like, we're going to have to go in this other direction because that's just where we're going. So we're not going to be able to just put a pin up and be like instant traffic. That just doesn't happen anymore. Google used to be like that too. Put an article up, instant traffic. It just doesn't work that way anymore. So what is it that we can expect? So we can expect that we put a pin on and it is evergreen. This is super beautiful and unique to Pinterest because you put something on Instagram, you put something on Facebook, you put something on YouTube. Like YouTube's a little more evergreen because it's a search engine. But like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, that stuff has like, if you're lucky, a 24-hour lifetime, and then it's gone. But Pinterest, as that pin is on Pinterest, it's collecting more and more information about the pin and serving it to more and more people and refining who is this pin for? Who is this pin for? What interests do they have? Who do we show this pin to? Who's going to respond positively to it? And Pinterest is always refining that. So that pin lives on. Pinterest continues to collect data about how it performs and who is best going to respond to it. And it's sending traffic to your site. Now, it's better if the pin's optimized, right? Just like if you're planting a seed, you can throw seeds out all over the place, and sometimes seeds will grow on concrete in the cracks, but most of the time you want there to be some soil, some fertilizer, some water. There's some things you can do to give optimum conditions for the seed to grow. The same with Pinterest. You can throw a bunch of pins up there and sometimes something takes off. But if you put in the work to optimize it, it's going to do even better. Now, if you're like, I'm ready to quit Pinterest, I don't want to optimize any pins, I'm just telling you this information so you have the information. So you can say, okay, well, maybe if I did want to put some pins at some point, I should probably optimize them to give them a better chance to perform because they are evergreen. They're going to be on Pinterest forever. They have the potential to send me traffic, right? Not necessarily today, but tomorrow, especially if they're not sending traffic today, but tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. And I've seen pins take off, a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, that I'm like, that pin, that's the one that's taking off, but it is because they just live on over time. Now, here's what's going to happen. If you have those pins out there, whether they're performing or not, and you exit Pinterest and you're not adding anything new, over time, other pins will overtake your pins in search, right? Because those are going to be updated content. Pinterest looks at relevancy and recency, right? How relevant is that pin to what else is on there? And recency. How recently was the pin published? How recently was the content published? How recently was it updated? So Pinterest is looking at all those things. And so if you don't do anything new, right? And I'm not saying new content, I'm saying new presentations of pins going to what you have, then eventually it will drop down, right? Because Pinterest will have shown it to everyone who's interested in that content, and then they're going to take it out of rotation. They're not going to delete it, but they're going to kind of put it on the back burner for a while because they're going to be like, well, everybody already saw this, right? It's like, have you ever been in a store? I think Macy's does this. I've purchased something at Macy's and it smells like mothballs. And I'm like, why would it smell like mothballs? Because they put it in the rotation for that season, like maybe winter season, and then it didn't sell. So then they took it out of rotation and they're saving it till the next winter. Because in June, I don't want to buy a chunky sweater, right? I'm looking at summer clothes. So the same thing with Pinterest. They're going to show that to everyone who's coming through and get as much as response as they can. And then they're going to take it out of rotation so they can show them newer, fresher things. It may come back in rotation, but if you're not putting new stuff in there, then it's only got the stuff you already have on Pinterest. So if you quit today, the only information Pinterest has is what you've already put on there and maybe the few things that someone else has put on there, like they've gone to your site and pinned or whatever. So just know that that's kind of what's going to happen. You might see an ebb and flow in the traffic. Okay. The next thing is, and this is where I think a lot of us don't look this far because we're just like traffic. I need more traffic. And this is something that I'm working on in our own program. I'm going to be building some new stuff. There's going to be some beta stuff happening. Like, I'm really excited about it. Maybe if you guys are on my email list, I might tell you about it and get you an option to get it on the ground floor. But what I usually say is that my program Smart Pin Pro, and this is what we've done for the last 2 years, goes like here. It gets you the traffic part. But there's this other part, right? When they get on your site, there's this other part to the process, right? You've got the people coming to your site. Now what? What do you do with them to convert them from just a pinner coming over and checking out your site to a buyer, a subscriber, a follower, a reader, someone that clicks your sponsor links? How do you get them to do that? So it's like part of it is traffic, but then it's what do you do with that traffic? What are the visitor, and a question to ask is, are the visitors converting once they're on your site? So if you don't know what conversion rates are, very simply, it just means how many people took the action you want divided by the number of people that came to the site. So if 10 people signed up on your newsletter and 1,000 people came to your site, then your conversion rate would be 10 divided by 1,000. Okay. So it would be 1%. No. Yeah, 1%. I'm like, can I do math today? So that would be your conversion rate. So are they converting when they get to your site? Are they doing the thing that you want them to do? Whether that's look at another page, sign up on your email list, subscribe to your YouTube channel, follow you on another social platform, click on another link. I might have already said that. Purchase a thing, get on your wait list, buy an affiliate product, right? All those different things. Are they converting when they get to your site? If you are not converting your site visitors into buyers, subscribers, and clients, then the problem isn't really Pinterest. The problem is that you have really low ROI for what you're doing on Pinterest, right? And that doesn't matter where you get the traffic from then, because you might get Google traffic, you might get Facebook traffic, wherever you're going to put your attention, you're going to get something from it. And they're not going to convert also. So you've got to look at that part. Like a lot of people are like, oh, well, Pinterest sucks, I'm going to quit Pinterest. But if your site is not converting people into buyers, subscribers, and clients at a significant rate, then at least the industry average, which usually is under 5%, then it doesn't matter if you got more traffic from Pinterest, because you're missing out on a ton of people. I was doing some research this morning and I saw this stat from OptinMonster that 70% of people that visit your website never, ever, ever come back. So you're only capturing about 30%. Okay. What if you could capture 40%, 50%? Now you don't need more traffic from Pinterest. Now you're increasing the benefit you get from that traffic. That's where I think we're missing a lot of the opportunity on Pinterest, is we're so focused on Pinterest isn't sending me people. It's like, well, what are we doing with those people when they get over here? Like, are we really serving them? Are we really capturing them? And the majority of the time I can say no. When I've looked at people's content, I'm just like, what is going on this blog post? And they get a little paralyzed because they're like, well, people say don't mess with the blog post because it'll upset the Google gods. I'm like, Google's not going to be upset if you make the post better, right? Pinterest isn't going to be upset if you make the post better. So, and that's like a whole nother thing. But I want to stress that if those visitors are not converting once they're on your site, it's not a Pinterest problem. You have a site content problem. You have a conversion problem. It could also be a Pinterest problem, but why work on trying to get more traffic from Pinterest if they get there and they still don't buy, right? It's like you're sending out flyers for people to come to your store and they get to the store and it's closed. They're like, why am I here? And then they're going to leave. Okay. Now, if your pins are failing altogether on Pinterest, you're like, look, I'm not getting traffic. Nobody's coming over. Nobody sees any of my stuff, right? Then if you quit, they're just going to continue to fail, right? They're just going to kind of fall off the wayside. Pinterest is going to show it to people. They're not going to react favorably. And then Pinterest will just take that stuff out of the rotation. So do you need to remove that content? No, because maybe somebody will click, right? So if the pins aren't optimized, then they're going to slowly fall to the wayside as other people come in with better, more updated content to share about that topic. And because Pinterest is so about user experience, they're not going to send anyone to your site if it is a bad user experience. So if you have a slow site, old content, it's out of date, poor quality of content on the site, broken links, right? They're not going to send people there. So those are things that you would have to fix on your site, no matter where you're getting traffic from. But here's the other thing, is that just because it's not performing today doesn't mean it can't perform later, because remember, pins are evergreen. So they can take off later. It's not a death sentence if things aren't performing now, right? So leave it on there. I had some really poor content, and that content took off on Pinterest because of a current event. So then I went in and I re-optimized the content. I went on my site and I was like, what is the experience when people get here? I was like, this is terrible. Let me fix it. So it can happen. So be sure to watch analytics, right? I found that out because I looked at analytics and I was like, wow, this one post is getting a surge in viewers. And then I was like, oh, they're coming from Pinterest. Oh, they're looking for this topic. The post is not a good experience. Let me figure out how I can get more benefit from that post, how I can better serve those people and convert them into clients, subscribers, and customers, instead of just having them be a pinner that came and bounced right off. So the bottom line is, if you are getting any traffic from Pinterest, you're not going to stop getting traffic if you quit Pinterest. It's just going to slowly decline over time as new content comes in and kind of like fills up the feed. Watch your analytics for opportunities to jump back in, because some current event could happen where that all of a sudden this old content is performing well. It could have gotten in, Pinterest could have, served it to a certain audience that all of a sudden is really responsive and that pin takes off. So watch your analytics. You don't need to be in Pinterest analytics, but I would say watch your Google analytics and be like, where's this traffic spike coming from? And where's the opportunity for me? And if you stayed on Pinterest, and this is what I wanted to stress about staying on Pinterest, you have more of a chance to get better at using Pinterest, to get better at reaching people, to get better at getting people's attention and getting them to click, because you're working on it and you're being intentional. Okay. So I think a lot of times we're like, oh, I'm going to put something on Pinterest, I'm going to get an instant result. If I'm not getting an instant result, I'm out. And if you quit Pinterest, you then pause any learning and improvement that can happen. While the other people who are still on Pinterest are learning and improving and making new and showing up, you're not going to totally stop showing up, but you are kind of like halting the learning process, right? Where it's like, maybe you don't have your whole hand in Pinterest, but you have your little pinky toe in there, right? Have something, be involved in some way if you can. Because Pinterest rewards new content and they want that new updated content because of the user experience. So new content, of course, is the newest new. They want that. But they also want new presentations of existing content, because people are still looking for those ideas, but maybe they're looking for them in different ways. Maybe they want to see them presented in different ways. You miss out on that if you quit Pinterest. So while your content isn't going to be taken out of the feed, it's just going to slowly decline. You could boost that a little by putting more, not a little, you can boost that by continuing to be on Pinterest, putting new presentations of your pins out there and not exiting completely, right? So you can kind of like slow down, pull back a little bit instead of fully exiting. But even if you fully exited, your content's still on Pinterest. It still has an opportunity to perform. You'll want to watch those analytics to see if there's any opportunity. And so what should you do if you're like, okay, I still want to quit? I understand that. I understand my pins are evergreen. I understand my content's going to be living on. I understand that other people are going to come in and give new things to Pinterest that may kind of supersede and push me out of the top. I'm totally okay with that. I still want to quit Pinterest. Okay, fine. That's totally fine. I just want to make sure you know what's going to happen. So then how do we do that? How do we quit Pinterest? So I'm going to be going over that in the next 2 videos. So I hope that you guys join me for the rest of this series. Is it time to quit Pinterest? My name is Jennifer Priest, and I'm really glad that you guys are here. Now I'm going to open it up for a few questions in case anybody has any questions about quitting Pinterest, about what I covered today. Like, this is what I covered is this is what's going to happen if you were to quit using Pinterest. And I just warned against one thing that you shouldn't do, which is to tell Pinterest to remove all of your content. Right? Let it stay there. Let it keep working for you. It's evergreen. It lives forever. It's not like Facebook or Instagram where it's like flash in the pan and gone. It is going to stay there. And Pinterest is going to continue collecting data about how it performs and who to show it to. So if you guys have any questions, I'd love for you to drop them down in the chat. And if I don't answer them live, I will answer them on the replay. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I will see you tomorrow for part 4, when we're going to be talking about why today is the best time to use Pinterest for business. And you might be surprised by some of the things that I say. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Bye. I'm going to end my Instagram first today before I do this one. So let me go in this one. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, definitely put them in the comments. I will be responding to all the questions there.